Let's have a conversation about Southwest and their new seating policy, which started yesterday. Guess who flew yesterday? Uh, you know, I'm a very patient and understanding person, but I think I'm going to go all Karen. I'm going to channel my mother and go all Karen on them because this was not prepared very well. They should have been trained on how to do this. There should have been practice levels. There should have been things. Apparently, there were big technology patches that happened the night before they launched it. I flew yesterday at 5 a.m. was my flight. I'm already angry with the fact that I offered to fly out before the storm. I called 3 times. I offered to fly out before the storm so that I could avoid all this chaos, so that they could avoid all of the rebooking chaos from the storm. I know better. I know the storm is going to be bad. The drive to the airport yesterday was horrible, horrible, but my flight was still on, so I went to the airplane. I got there and I get to my gate and, everything seems pretty okay. They start to tell people to line up for the priority. They're saying your boarding groups are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. And I was boarding group 2. I had gotten up at 5 a.m. the day before to bump my seat to a priority seating to like a, whatever it is, the front couple rows. Because if you have a credit card, you can change your flight. If there's seats available, you can change your flight to be the better flights. Okay, I did that. I woke up at 5 a.m. the day before and did that. I ended up with boarding group 2. I thought that would be a really good thing. We go to line up and everybody's all lined up. And then all of a sudden they switch the panel, the lighted panel above that says boarding group 1, boarding group 2. So now everybody's scrambling to get into the right boarding groups now. Half the people are half asleep. They don't do that. So when we go to load the plane, all the people in boarding group 1, half of them were, oh no, you're boarding group 2. Oh, but I was in line for boarding group 2. But now they switched it. And half their boarding passes weren't working. They kept saying, oh, if you haven't, I need so-and-so, all these names to activate your boarding pass. And nobody knew what the hell that even meant. And so they had this long list of names saying that they wanted, activate your boarding pass. They didn't activate their boarding pass. I didn't activate a boarding pass. All they did was check in. I don't know what that means. And so people were getting up to the gate and they're saying, oh no, you didn't activate your boarding pass. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I have a printed boarding pass. How much more activation do you need? Kept sending me to customer service. Now there are some of these people where people would paid to be in that first boarding group. But now because their system wasn't working, the money they paid to be in that first boarding group, they had to go to customer service. They ended up in the second boarding group because by the time they were done with customer service, because there were a lot of them, they ended up coming back and standing in line with me in boarding group 2. I was within the first 5 rows. I think I was like in 5 or 4. And so I finally got on the plane. I sat down and the lines kept coming and the lines kept coming and the lines kept coming. And I never understand why airplanes, like, come on, people. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if you have assigned seats, board the people in the back of the plane first. What a concept. If you know that they are going to take longer to get to the back of the plane and they are going to take longer to put their things up top, load them first. And then all the seats go, but I know why they don't want to do that, because the better seats need to have the suitcase bins. Okay, then if you're going to have seats in the way back of the plane, tell them they can't bring their carry-on bags so that there's enough bags for everybody. What a shock. It doesn't take a lot to figure that shit out. I'm getting angry. So at this point, I'm sitting on the airplane and I'm watching it load. The line just keeps coming. The line keeps coming. It took us an hour to load the freaking plane because nobody knew what they were doing. And I swear to God, half the people on the plane had never been on a plane before. Never been on a plane before. They're like, look at your seat number. Oh, these numbers are on the left and these are on the right. There is no other airplane out there that would let you free seat before. If you've never flown before, okay, I get it. But everybody knows to look on the wall and say, look, I am 4E. I am 4C. Come on. And it was taking forever and taking forever and taking forever. So then people who were in the back of the plane, had these assigned seats in the back of the plane, they started putting their bags in the front compartments because they didn't want to have to deal with trying to find everything later. No, no, who does that? Seriously, who does that? That's... So then there had to be a flight attendant that had to go stand in the middle of the plane telling people, where's your seat? Oh, back of the plane? No, take your bag with you to the back of the plane. Oh my God. It took an hour for the plane to get loaded. And then we sat there and we waited. And we could not. Here's the other thing. We had already started loading a little bit later because our crew hadn't gotten there. Why? Because the flight wasn't going to go on time because the roads were so bad. They were so bad. So bad. Everybody should have been allowed to change one day after the storm. Extend the ability, the voucher thing to change one day after the storm. Because it was a 2-foot snowstorm. I digress. An hour. Then we sat there on the plane, and then they tell us that the plane has got too much weight on it. They start kicking people off the plane. First they say, we want volunteers. If you will move to the next flight out, then we will compensate you. They wouldn't say how much they'd compensate you for, but they said, we'll compensate you. So I think like 3 people volunteered to go. And then like, no, we need a lot more people. And if you don't volunteer, we're going to just start calling names. So then all of a sudden they start calling people's names over the intercom saying, if we call your name, you need to grab your things and get off the plane. And they did that. They called like 15, 20 people. And not that many people were coming forward. Nobody was admitting that it was them. So we sat there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Oh, it's too much weight, too much weight, too much weight, too much weight. Then come to find out that the plane had too much fuel on it. That was the problem. Too much fuel on it. So, and then the pilot later on told us, oh, well, the numbers got transposed, and instead of putting in 2.16, they put in 2.61 or something like that. And so the plane had too much fuel in it. So they were kicking people off the plane because of human error. And then they made us get all off the plane. And we had to do it again at another gate. Why? Because they had no way to get the fuel off the plane. And they couldn't rebook all these people on new flights because it was the day after a storm. And everybody had already been rebooked because all the flights had been canceled on Sunday and Monday. So there were no flights to rebook them on. Oh, what chaos. What chaos. So we get off. We go to get onto the next airplane, which apparently we kind of took from the people headed to Baltimore. Sorry, people going to Baltimore. You're going to have to wait for the next plane. Or maybe in the meantime, they got the fuel off the one that we were supposed to take. I don't know what ended up happening after I left. This time, I go to get onto the plane. And it was funny because at that point there were people who had bailed. So where we had a completely full flight. Me and the lady next to me, the guy in the end, he was like, screw this shit. He's like, I'm out. He decided not to go. And so she's like, oh, I'm going to move over. So we had the middle seat available. Plenty of room. But we never should have, and I get we had to move the plane. We would have missed our connections anyways. But the amount of time that they took to figure this shit out and find out that the plane had too much fuel, all of this stuff should have been calculated and done. Oh, and then we go to get onto the new plane, and apparently there's a delay. We can't get onto the new plane because there was still stuff on the plane that shouldn't have been on the plane, and they were closing the door, and it was all secretive, and and then the captain comes out, and he's sitting there talking to us, going, guys, this is crazy. He was very pleasant, but he was making us feel better about it, but he was like, yeah, no, this shit doesn't happen. This is not okay. And then it took another freaking load to get on, but at least this time everybody knew where their seats were, so it was a little bit faster than the first time. We get onto the plane, no real issues getting there, but they told us, like, don't worry, we're going to automatically rebook you. We know that a lot of you have connections.